Hey everybody, Eezore here, and in this video we're going to be talking about crops for the game Farm Together. Well, first things first, I'm just going to explain how they kind of work for in this game in general, even if just in case you didn't get the tutorial or you don't understand what's going on. Every single crop that you plant needs to be planted in a plowed soil, which takes 10 gold in order to do. So no matter what, always pay attention to that because it does add an extra 10 gold for everything. Early on, this is much more important than later on, because later on you'll be rolling in hundreds of thousands or millions of gold, so just pay attention to that early. Once you plant a crop, you can water it to save some time as to when you can harvest it. It's kind of a variation, so sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 2 minutes, other times it's 6 hours, so it really depends on how long the crop takes itself. You do need to kind of watch the seasons with these, because certain crops are only available in certain seasons. For example, in spring you can only plant the tomatoes, so you kind of need to, if you need to plant tomatoes and harvest them, you need to watch for that, because then you can get tomatoes from in spring. Likewise, leeks are only available in the winter, and cauliflower is only available in the fall. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head for whenever you're planting stuff, because if you do need something for a quest, you want to kind of make sure you don't pass that season up. So that's the basic of the crops. I'm going to go into a couple of pros and cons now about these, as well as just some advice on these in general. Alright, a couple of pros for crops. They make you the most money if you plant them right. There are a lot of really good money-making ones, especially early on, that really can kind of get you up there pretty good. You can get gems from them, but it's kind of an inefficient way to get gems. You do get gems from turning in the other items that you collect, so for example, the vegetables, the fruits, so on and so forth. But there's other ways in general for all of that as well. So I would recommend really kind of just using this as your money making, not for your actual diamond farming. On that note, some of the best crops to use, especially early on, watermelons are really good and profitable. They do take a lot of time to do, so kind of keep an eye on that. Strawberries are likewise really profitable. They do also take a lot of time. I think it's a day and a half, so watch for those. But sunflowers are one of the best plants to actually grow and get money from, especially early on. So if you can, I would plant as much sunflower as you can, just because it's so profitable early on. Another really good thing about crops is that you can always just add more. Like if you end up running out of space for where you're planting everything, you can just throw down another little section and keep growing more. I mean, literally, you could always be doing something with this game. You could always be farming. Time could be spent better somewhere else, I would say, but you could always be farming crops, so that's kind of a nice thing about them. The time you save with watering is, like I said, it's a variable, but it really does help out if you're going to be playing for a while. For example, if you water the tomato every single time you can, when you plant it, it takes 2 hours to go, but you can actually get it done in an hour. Likewise with watermelon, I think you can actually shave off about like 17, 16 hours or something like that. So if you plant them, then water them, then come back later that evening or the next morning and you water them again, chances are you're going to be watering, or you're going to be harvesting them at the end of the day. So it is a nice little thing, but there is one bad thing about that I'm going to get into here real quick for a con on that exact same point, and that's the fact that watering takes gas. Early on, you're not going to have that many gassing up stations, and gas is kind of a valuable commodity, so I definitely wouldn't recommend always watering everything. Just kind of play it smart and say, hey, I'm going to be online for the next 45 minutes. I'll water anything that's going to make it shave down the time to about when that's going to be done, and ignore the rest. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another good pro for the crops is that when a quest shows up for them, they're really easy to do. A lot of people I know, especially high levels end game, they will make entire like farm sections of crops, so that way if the quest comes up they can just harvest all those right away and get the quests. That's smart, but it is really difficult to do early on. However, you can always, like I said before, just add more crops. So literally, if you have all your plowed sections already used, then just make some more, and then you can finish up that quest. And early on, it's a great source for ribbons. So, all right, a couple more of the cons besides just the watering takes gas. Big one that you have to watch out for is you really kind of lock all of your money into crops. Like I said, with the money-making ones, they take a long time. So like the strawberries, let's say you blow $100,000 into strawberries, and that's it. That's all your money. Okay, now you have to wait for those strawberries to come up in order to make a profit. So you're kind of stuck in the game until those are done. There's no real, hey, I'm gonna like time warp or anything like that. Some games have that, this one does not. So you literally have to wait until they're done, and that's a big con. If you're not careful, you really need to play it smart with that stuff. Another one that kind of gets against it is just kind of the time issues with them, because sometimes you'll have some that come up right away and like the seasons will change, so you're doing 5 million other things and then your crops are done. Well, you don't want to be wasting all that time with your crops being done. You want to kind of keep planting them, but I know like once you get to the end game, you kind of shift your priorities away from crops, but at least early on you kind of want to watch for them because it's a really good source of income. So to kind of piggyback off that one, farm hands are really kind of useless on crops. They're really, really great for just about everything else in the game except for crops and also farm animals, but we'll get to that in another video. They can't replant crops. They can pick them, they can water them, they can do those two things, but they cannot replant them. So you have to manually go in and plant them every single time, which is kind of annoying, and it kind of defeats the purpose of them. So I'd use your farm hands anywhere else, which is really kind of how you save, or how you make a really good big farm basically work. So, and that's a lot of the pros and cons. A couple of tips for it, just in general. I would set aside specific fields for specific points. What I mean by that is I do a giant, just one continuous field, but I have the last, I think, 9 rows all for money-making purposes, so that's where I have all my watermelon. If I have a whole bunch of quests, like I just randomly got a quest for 150 potatoes, so I just threw in 150 potatoes in the middle section, and then the front section was mainly for money as well, because I didn't have any other quests at the time. So as long as you designate sections, you can label them, you can do whatever you want with them really, but just kind of like lay it out so that way it's, hey, this section right here for crops is only for quests. This section over here is just for money making purposes. You know, just if you just kind of do that, you won't all of a sudden run into this issue like I said where you dump all your money into making money, or you dump all the money you have on you, I should say, into making a profit, and you have to wait a day and a half to get everything back, or 8 hours, or whatever it is. So now, I did say that the gas is kind of a big commodity. I would use it on other things first, but if you have spare gas and you have so many things that you don't have to worry about gas, water all your crops. Like, it does save a lot of time, and you just kind of want to be smart with that time in general with crops. Every 17 minutes when the season changes, or every 20 minutes when a half hour when the fish come up, or like anything like that, you have something to do. But in between those times, you should be worrying about the crops, and that's kind of where you want to like play smart with your time and just be a little conscious of it. So, and that's really about it for all the pros and cons I got for crops. I mean, there's more to them than this, but this is just kind of what I feel in general that should be a good ground level for you, especially early on. We'll get into ends game stuff here in another video. If you want to watch that one, check it. I'll have a playlist at the end of this video that's kind of going to be talking about all these pros and cons and just general tips for endgame stuff, so just check that out if you want to look for something a little bit more. If you have any tips or tricks or anything like that that you think should have been included, by all means leave it in the comments down below. Just kind of talk about it and see what's going on, because I'm not an expert on this game by any means. I love this game, I really played a lot, but there's still things that I'm learning and need to be just kind of relearned. So that's all I got for this video. So if you liked it, go ahead and give it a like. If you enjoy other video game related content, that's kind of what I do, so consider subscribing. Thank you all for watching. I've been Eezore, and until next time, keep your story going.